How do you stop an absolute beast like Khamzat Chimaev?
Just like that!
The Chechen mauler is 13-0 in MMA with his conquests including a seasoned fighters like Gilbert Burns and an absolute legend in the shape of Kamaru Usman, both of whom failed to stop the hype train in its tracks. If such elite competition couldn't halt his rise, can anyone else even dare to think big? The answer is yes, because as fiery as the wolf is, he can still be caught off guard and hunted down. All you have to do is watch this video till the end to know exactly how. Chimaev is among the best wrestlers, if not the best, in the UFC. He's young, strong, and aggressive, like a hurricane tearing through coastal defenses. As soon as the referee signals the beginning of a fight, Chimaev is onto his opponent like a wolf hungry for flesh. His takedowns are a perfect symphony of technique and timing. But that's half the story. Once Chimaev has his foes down, he dominates and plays with them like a predator plays with its helpless prey before ripping it into shreds. There's no way out of his grip unless you're a world-class wrestler yourself, and unfortunately, not many enjoy that liberty. That is exactly why Chimaev has dominated most of his opponents. Chimaev was unstoppable when he signed with the UFC and won 2 fights in less than 10 days and 3 fights in 2 months. When Chimaev decimated John Phillips and Gerald Meerschaert, Dana White was over the moon for having discovered a once-in-a-lifetime star with the skills and personality to be as big as Khabib Nurmagomedov, who retired a few months after Chimaev arrived in the UFC. Chimaev lived up to the hype he had in his early days in the UFC, and he continues to live up to expectations as his competition grows bigger. But he's also shown vulnerabilities. The first time we saw him being tried and tested was against Gilbert Burns, whose world-class BJJ skill set forced Chimaev into keeping the fight standing, where he got clipped a couple of times. The fight was the first sign of weakness he showed, that despite having an outstanding striking skill set with a vicious amount of power in his hand, he was hittable.
Oh! Gilbert clipped him to the left! Oh, and an uppercut!
Offensively, he's very dangerous, but the longer the fight stays on the feet, the more he gets hit. Against Gilbert Burns, Chimaev absorbed 141 strikes, which were more than he had absorbed in his entire career before that fight. His face was bruised, battered, and extremely fatigued. For the first time in his career, Chimaev said he enjoyed every bit of his time in the cage because he was truly tested. What he failed to realize was that some of the chinks he had in his armor were badly exposed, and that wasn't good news. Unfortunately, Kevin Holland failed to capitalize on them because of a subpar wrestling skill set when the two fought at UFC 279. Unlike Holland, Paulo Costa was considered a seriously tough challenge for Chimaev because he had an excellent takedown defense and the ability to reduce people to molecules. Unfortunately, the fight, which was supposed to take place at UFC 294, never happened because Costa pulled out due to injury. But Chimaev got someone bigger and better. After Costa's pullout, former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, one of the most accomplished wrestlers in the UFC, came in as a short-notice replacement. Usman's wrestling defense was said to be the key in the fight, but Chimaev's offense was simply in a class of its own. He took Usman down early in round 1 and held on to him for the remainder of the stanza. However, he couldn't do much. Usman was smart, even in bad positions, and he made Chimaev work tirelessly for a finish, which never came, and the Chechen ended up depleting more than half of his gas tank in trying to bulldoze Usman. From the second round onwards, Usman started to have more success on the feet as he touched Chimaev's face with his long levers now and then. Once again, Chimaev had his work cut out for him in striking, and he showed that he wasn't technically as sound as some of the world's best. Chimaev's lack of success on the feet forced him to wrestle, and he once again succeeded in getting the fight to the ground. In the third round, Usman did a ton of damage with nuclear rights and ballistics left. He was well and truly coming into his own, and although Chimaev managed to secure a late takedown, the Nigerian's output and aggression on the feet were enough to win him that round. Not the fight, though. Chimaev was breathing heavily, and his face was busted up a bit after 3 rounds of war. But thankfully, it ended at the right time, and he won by a close decision. Had it been a 5-rounder, or had Usman had more time to prepare, let's say a full camp, who knows what would have happened? For the second time in 3 fights, Chimaev showed vulnerability in striking and conditioning. Now, are these weaknesses enough to stop him? The answer is both yes and no. Yes, if you can stop his takedowns, which is demoralizing for any wrestler, let alone one like Chimaev, who hasn't faced adversity, but if you can't stop the takedowns, then this video is probably not for you. For strikers with an okay-ish wrestling defense, Chimaev is an absolute nightmare. All he has to do is blitz through or duck under a strike, take his opponent's back, and that's that. Elite strikers like Israel Adesanya may have a chance because of his wide stance and quick in-and-out movement, balance, and positioning. To avoid getting taken down, you have to keep your distance. Keep a low stance. Circle away, stay ready for sprawl, and hope that Chimaev misses the mark. But then again, the wolf rarely makes an error. The moment he gets his hands on his foe, it's as good as done. Wrestlers, especially at middleweight, have a solid chance of beating Chimaev. To beat the Chechen, you have to stop his onslaught in the first round and then try to break him down in the next 2 or 4 stanzas. Ikram Aliskerov is one name that stands out in that regard. The two fought a few years ago at Brave Combat Federation, where Aliskerov defended every single takedown. The Dagestani seems to have improved a ton in striking and has the perfect style to take Chimaev out. An even better choice would be Bo Nickal, a champion wrestler with exceptionally fast hands. Nickal has the best chance of beating Chimaev. He's young, his wrestling is out of this world, and his striking is seriously nippy for the amount of fights he has had. The Allen assassin seems to have that touch of death in his hands, and his confidence is on par with Chimaev. The only problem is that he may have to work his way into a super fight with the Chechen monster, and he needs to polish a few dull ends before making the big decision. Marvin Vettori and Dricus du Plessis are strong contenders to stop Chimaev as well. They are both built like a tank, have a solid wrestling skill set, and can strike well. If they can defend those takedowns against Chimaev, they can surely turn a potential fight into a scrap of will and skill, but it's a big if. In short, there are several ways to stop Chimaev, but unfortunately, there is only one route that leads to those ways, and that's stopping him from grabbing a hold of you and taking you for a ride. That's the hardest thing to do, but that's also the most important. If you can't stop the takedowns, you've got more than a puncher's chance to take out the noisy Chechen. Otherwise, you'll be better off dodging the bullet. What do you guys think? Is there any way to stop Khamzat Chimaev? And if yes, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to keep up with what's happening in the MMA world, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video.